Right, this is a seriously big game for Manchester United, and our away form is not the best. Aston Villa, a bit of a topsy-turvy week with a defeat to Chelsea, but I think that just highlights how unpredictable Chelsea are. Now, a win against Aston Villa is going to put Erik Ten Hag and the team in a pretty decent spot, and I think it's a decent statement, especially losing Lisandro Martinez for the second half of the season. Now, we are sixth in the league currently. That is 8 points off the top four, with Villa being the side that's in fourth. Tottenham are just 2 points behind Villa in fifth. That's what we've got to overcome. Now, if that gap gets to 11, I don't think we overcome it. This is as much a not lose as it is a must win. Because I think you cannot allow Aston Villa to... I can't believe I'm saying this. But you can't allow Aston Villa to gain any ground on us. A win would see us climb within 5 points and would also be a pretty good statement of intent and prove that recent resurgence is not yet another false dawn for us. Now, let's have a look at how Aston Villa play and why they've been so effective under Unai Emery. The base system's a 4-4-2, but it does not look like an ordinary 4-4-2. When they play up from the back, both wide midfielders are positioned within the width of the box, giving them a little bit of space behind. And they are the key players because the objective of playing out from the back is creating space to play the attackers up front. And the wide midfielders are the main players that try to receive those passes. And since taking over at Villa, Emery's traditional sort of trademark transitional attacks have been a real staple of their play. That central midfield of Douglas Luiz and Boubacar Kamara as a double pivot has provided both cover and support underneath and around the ball. And when Villa regain possessions, the likes of Ollie Watkins shown the ability to be able to link play, running behind, and then he's supported by the pace that you've got of Diaby or the trickery of Leon Bailey. Villa's wide areas give them even further support on the counter-attack. The likes of John McGinn play wide when defending in a 4-4-2, and then in possession, he moves into the inside channel, and he's almost like an extra midfielder when needed. And McGinn also gives them a bit of a box-to-box threat from midfield, or as potentially one of the attacking midfield positions. He can strike a ball, and he's also an absolute black belt level shithouse, and he annoyed the hell out of me in the game at Old Trafford. Only by doing stuff that I know is effective. Cheeky little dives, cheeky little flicks, little kicks, just generally being a complete and utter bloody nuisance. But he's good at it, and if you get players like that play for your team, you love them. If they don't play for your team, they'll do your bleeding head in, like he does with mine. Others that have been used on the opposite flank, Zaniolo, Bailey, Jacob Ramsey, Matty Cash, all of those have sort of given the same sort of transitional support that are offered by McGinn. And Emery's players adapt out of 4-4-2 when they're trying to regain possession as well. Watkins becomes a main central threat during any sort of sustained possession, and he's often supported by two number 10s. Diaby or Bailey will partner him in that front line, and McGinn will sort of sit off and narrow off a little bit with it. Villa's double pivot will then support underneath, and width comes from fullbacks and a winger, so it's a little bit asymmetric, and the back line becomes a trio, with the far side fullback having license to join in with late forward runs. Sometimes both fullbacks will push forward if they're trying to create width, and that'll leave two centre-halves and the double pivot behind the ball, a little bit of a security square. Watkins then gets that extra player in the central spaces, which means that Villa have got those extra players to receive and move the ball on when they're attacking. And they do this really, really well. And they find players both wide and in between the lines, Diaby especially in between the lines. And Villa have implemented that sort of secondary structure when dominating the ball for long, long periods by pushing players into those sorts of areas. Defensively, Emery's team typically go with high defensive lines and try and defend as far away as they can from the goal. And the emphasis is on an aggressive press and minimising the space in between the lines. And I like it. I like the structure, to be honest with you. They go with a high line defensively, and the back four execute the triggering of offside traps absolutely perfectly, and they are very, very good at it. When they've got the likes of Martinez in behind, he is one of the best keepers in the league. That gives him a bit of a safety blanket, and he's not scared of coming out of his box either to deal with any balls that might fall into no man's land. If defending the high defensive line is impractical or an opponent is just bypassing it constantly, then Emery will organise his players into what's more of a mid-block. The double pivot will then regularly cover in front of the central defenders, and he sort of maintained this out of possession 4-4-2 high aggressive backline, And even within a mid-block, the likes of Watkins and Diaby that have formed that first line will cover and screen the central passes and force players to go wide with it, where you're going to see the ball go and get pressed. Lewis and Kamara will provide the cover and deal with anything if it comes into the sort of central zones. And obviously the likes of McGinn and Ramsey and Cash give a defensive presence in that second line. Star man for Villa is going to be Ollie Watkins. 16 goals and 12 assists in 33 games this season is genuinely elite. You know, fair play to him. Well done to him for the season that he's having. He's certainly one of the Premier League players of the season. He's deceptively strong. He is powerful. Doesn't have a lot of weaknesses to his game. It's quite well-rounded, which maybe that's one of the reasons why people underestimate him, because he's kind of like, yeah, he's pretty good, but he doesn't have that major X factor that, you know, the world-class players would have about him. But he doesn't really have any weaknesses. He's good at dribbling. He's good playing the ball, running in behind. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's two-footed. He's good in the air. Like, he's just a real well-rounded footballer. And he's put himself in the top echelons of players, or forwards at least, in Europe, I would think. In terms of United, it'll be Onana in net. And I think big decisions to be made here. And it's the positioning of Luke Shaw. I could see a case for Luke Shaw, left side centre half, and either Wan-Bissaka or Dalot at left back. Or what I think will happen is Johnny Evans will be given the nod alongside Rafael Varane. And it'll be Shaw and Dalot, or potentially Wan-Bissaka. I think he might go with Wan-Bissaka playing away from home. Midfield, I'm hoping to see Casemiro and Menu with Bruno ahead. And then I think the forward line is starting to pick itself with Garnacho on that right-hand side, Marcus Rashford on the left, and Rasmus Højlund down the middle. The star man for United, I believe, is going to be Garnacho. He's in good form of late, and the pace in behind down that right channel, that's a position that Villa will leave exposed on transition. I don't think Rashford and Garnacho are great against teams that are sat in a low block, but I'll tell you when they are great, and that is when they've got space to run into, and they should have space to run into. What we've not had in recent games, or no, apart from in recent games, is players capable of getting the ball to them. Bruno's positioning has been a bit weird without Casemiro being in the team. Casemiro's not been in the team, so you haven't got someone that's always got his head up looking for those balls. And I think Casemiro, Menu, Bruno, they will be able to find not just the two wingers, but also Højlund. But I think Garnacho getting the final ball and decision-making a little bit better because he's looking for it now, could really see him creating. And I think he's going to be involved in goals, whether that means scoring them or creating them. He's going to need to track back. He's going to need to remember his defensive responsibility. But if he does that, he will be the most important player for United in this game, in my opinion. As always, this is brought to you by our friends at Parimatch UK, and I've got another exclusive bet boost for you that you're not going to get anywhere else. And the bet I'm going for in this game is Ollie Watkins with a 1 shot or 1+ shot on target, Rasmus Højlund with 1+ shot on target, both teams to score, over 3.5 match cards and over 9.5 match corners. That's been boosted from 17-4 to 13-2. If you want to get involved in that, all you have to do is check the link in the description, give that a click. Prices are subject to change. You need to be 18 plus to participate. And we know that football, and especially Manchester United at the moment, are completely unpredictable. Maybe not quite as unpredictable as Chelsea, but still extremely unpredictable. But it's a bit of fun to enhance your enjoyment of the game. It's obviously no promise of winning. For more help and information on responsible gaming, please check out begambleaware.org. Now, once again, exclusive to myself and Parimatch UK. So click the link in the description below and get involved. So, how do United beat Aston Villa? What do we need to do to make sure we come away with what would be a genuinely massive 3 points? First and foremost, time your run. They play a ridiculous high line, but they excel at the offside trap. So, time your run, because if you're going one way and the defensive line's coming the other way, you can handle being a good foot or so onside at the time the ball is played. And there's no point risking it because VAR will get it bang on. They're going to zoom in and look at pixels, so don't bother with them. Be disciplined with the forward play and find the likes of Rashford and Højlund. Just give them half a yard and watch what happens. Be wary of the central overloads. They play very narrow and the width is provided by the fullbacks. So they're going to pack the middle of the pitch. If they pack the middle of the pitch and they've got more numbers in it, they can pass it around you. And they really, really flood the middle and overload the opposition in those areas and try to dominate those areas. So you've got to be sharp in those areas. Luckily, I think Casemiro, Mainu and Bruno can cope. They are very good technical players that are capable of hurting you. They can maintain possession in crowded areas. And if they control that area of the park, they're an absolute nightmare because they take up quite unorthodox positions. And some of their players in the final third are going to really ghost into places that you don't want them to go. This is going to be a very tough game for United. But if we can pull out 3 points here, that'll be absolutely massive. And do our hopes of getting in the top 4, no harm whatsoever. I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. And I'll catch you lot in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.